The night it really started was so ordinary, it hurts to think about it. There was leftover pasta on the stove, some show humming on the TV, muted. The city outside our apartment windows was just a low, distant buzz. Streetlights, headlights, the occasional siren stretching out in the drizzle. Everything felt gray and slow. She was late. Again, late meeting, she had texted an hour earlier. A little smiley face at the end, like that made it softer. I remember just staring at that emoji, that stupid yellow circle grinning up at me while the pasta went cold. The clock above the TV read 9:27 p.m. By then. I'd already reheated her plate twice. The steam kept rising, then fading, like it was giving up too. Our apartment was small but cozy. 2 bedrooms, wood floors, a couch that sank too much in the middle. The kind of place you pick together and tell yourselves it's temporary, but then your life starts to grow around it, like ivy around a fence. Her mug with the chipped handle sat by the sink. Her scarf was still thrown over the chair. Her perfume still clung to the hallway. It all said she lived here, that this was home. But lately she felt like a guest passing through. I sat at the dining table, pushing pasta around my plate, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the rain ticking against the window. The chair across from me stayed empty. Her chair, the one she curled up in, legs tucked under, telling bad jokes or complaining about her day. Now it just waited like I did. My phone buzzed on the table. For a heartbeat, something lifted in my chest. Emma, still in the meeting, I promise. Don't wait up. Love you. Love you. 2 words that used to feel like a blanket. Now they felt like a script. I stared at the screen. My reflection glowed faintly over the text. Tired eyes, the little crease between my brows that she used to kiss away. I typed back, okay, be safe, then erased it. Typed, it's late, erased that too. In the end, I just put the phone face down and sat there in the quiet. That was the thing with silence. It was never really empty. It was full of the things you didn't want to say. Over the last few months, the silence between us had grown like a shadow stretching across the room. Little things had changed at first. Missed dinners, turned over phones, work drinks that ran later. Her laughter drifting from the bathroom, then the tap of fingers on a screen when she thought the door was closed enough. She'd always been busy, driven. That was one of the things loved most about her. But lately, her busyness had a different temperature. A different edge. It didn't feel like ambition. It felt like escape. That night the rain picked up, hitting harder against the glass. The city lights blurred into streaks, as if the whole skyline was underwater. The room seemed smaller, darker. The empty chair across from me harsher, more obvious. I washed the plates, put the leftovers away, turned off the TV. Every switch click sounded too loud. By 11:12 p.m., our apartment was almost completely dark. Just a warm little pool of light from the lamp by the couch. The hallway was a tunnel of shadow. I sat there, elbows on my knees, phone in my hand but not looking at it. The rain drummed, the fridge hummed, and my mind replayed the last few weeks in ugly little loops. That perfume that wasn't her usual scent. The new lingerie she'd bought and never worn around me. Her saying, I'm exhausted, but coming home with her hair perfect and her lipstick a little smudged. It's amazing how long the heart can pretend it doesn't know what the eyes have already seen. Somewhere around midnight, something inside finally snapped. Not in a loud way, more like a quiet click, a lock turning, a decision made without my permission. Enough. The thought drifted in, soft but solid. Enough. The lamp by the couch cast a warm circle over the coffee table, highlighting the small stack of mail, bills, flyers, and another envelope from our phone provider. The corner of it had been torn, like it had been opened and stuffed back in a hurry. Emma handled the bills. She liked things neat, ordered. She never left envelopes lying around like that. The click inside my chest grew louder. A minute later, the laptop was open on my knees, blue light washing over my face in the dark. The login screen felt like a small betrayal, not of her, of the version of myself that still wanted to trust without asking questions. Our phone account was shared, same provider, same login. A couple's discount. It had felt sweet once. Hands slightly shaking, typed in the credentials. The spinning circle appeared. The rain outside softened, as if even the city was holding its breath. The account dashboard came up, 2 numbers. Mine and hers. I clicked on her line. Call history, message logs, data usage. It was all there, a quiet little spreadsheet of her days and nights. At first it looked normal. Calls to her mother, her boss, a couple of friends. But as scrolled down through the last few weeks, a pattern began to glow, sharp and undeniable. One number, over and over again. Late at night, early morning, lunchtime, 27 minutes, 42, an hour and 8, no name saved. Just digits, anonymous, but they pulsed on the screen like a heartbeat. Last call, 10:03 p.m. tonight, 46 minutes, while her meeting was happening. Felt like someone had punched through my ribcage and grabbed my lungs. The room tilted, then snapped back into place. The hum of the fridge grew loud and meaningless. Clicked on the number, copied it, pasted it into a search bar. The site that came up was one of those basic people finder pages. Fragmented, messy public records. The name appeared beside the number. Ryan Calloway, a local number, a local man, just a stranger, and somehow not a stranger at all. The laptop screen reflected my own face back at me, pale, eyes wide, jaw tight. Behind my reflection, her photo was still set as the desktop wallpaper. It was from a vacation we took 3 years ago. Her hair in a messy bun, sunglasses perched on her head, face lit by the sun, and a laugh that almost vibrated through the image. For a second, felt dizzy. How did we get from that day to this spreadsheet of calls and secrets? The cursor hovered over the number. In some half-conscious act of masochism, clicked show text logs. Not the content, just the timestamps, the frequency. The list was endless. Mornings when she'd kissed my forehead and whispered, "Bye, sleepyhead." Afternoons when she'd replied to my messages with, "So busy, text later." Nights when she'd rolled away from me in bed and said, "I'm just tired, babe." Every lie had a corresponding line on this screen. Fingers went numb, the room blurred around the edges. Somewhere outside, a car splashed through a puddle, the headlights streaking briefly past our windows like a ghost. The apartment felt less like home and more like a crime scene. On some level, this was the moment everything truly broke. Not the first missed dinner, not the late-night showers, not even the mysterious new perfume. It was seeing those numbers, those times, stacked up in cold, digital order. It made her emotional distance into something measured, quantified, a thing that could be printed on a page. The front door clicked, soft, familiar, ordinary, the latch, the little creak it always made when pushed open too fast. The patter of footsteps, damp from the rain, the scent of her perfume slipping into the room ahead of her like it always did, closed the laptop on instinct, as if that could undo what had just been seen. She stepped into the living room, shaking rain from her umbrella, cheeks flushed from the cold. Her hair was slightly damp around the edges. Her blazer clung to her shoulders. There was that small smear of lipstick at the corner of her mouth. And she was smiling, that easy practice smile, the one strangers found charming, the one knew too well. "Hey," she said, voice soft, casual. Her eyes scanned the room, found me on the couch. "You're still up." She dropped her bag by the chair. The same chair that had been empty all night. The words stuck in my throat like glass. On the coffee table, the phone bill sat, corner torn, slightly crooked, the only sign of what I'd just uncovered. The laptop rested on my knees, closed, its screen now a black mirror reflecting her, standing there, smiling like nothing had changed. "Long meeting," she added, shrugging out of her coat, shaking droplets onto the floor. "You wouldn't believe the drama." Her eyes met mine then. The smile faltered. Something inside me shifted, slow and irrevocable, because for the first time in our marriage, when looked at her, "Didn't see my wife. Saw a stranger who had been living in my home." "Emma," said quietly, the word hanging between us like smoke. The rain softened to a whisper outside, the city a distant hum. Her hand froze halfway to the back of the chair. There was a beat of silence, a pause, a breath, and in that space, knew this night would draw a line straight through our life. Before and after. The first seconds after saying her name felt like standing at the edge of a long drop. Everything slowed. Her bag slipped off the chair and landed on the floor with a dull thud. She didn't pick it up, didn't move at all. Her fingers still hovered midair, caught in the gesture. "Hey," she said again, but slower now, cautious. "You okay?" "You look." She trailed off. The room seemed to tilt slightly toward the coffee table, toward that torn envelope, like gravity itself was pointing. Her eyes followed. It took half a heartbeat for her to see it. Another for her brain to connect it. The phone bill. My laptop closed but still warm on my knees. Something flickered across her face. Not guilt, not yet, recognition. Her smile died completely. The muscles in her jaw tensed. Her throat moved as she swallowed once. The silence stretched. How many nights had we spent in this room laughing, talking, curled up under the same blanket? How many times had she rested her feet in my lap as we watched movies, complaining about work, the neighbors, the world? Now all of that shared history hung in the air like fragile glass, waiting for the first sound to shatter it. "Where were you?" asked, though already knew the answer the way a person knows the outcome of a movie they've watched too many times. Her lips parted, then closed. She glanced at the torn bill again. "I told you," she said, voice too calm, too smooth. "Work, the meeting ran late, we." "Don't cut in," the word coming out much colder than expected. It hung between us heavy. Her eyes snapped back to mine. The rain outside had softened to a steady hiss, the kind that made the world feel small and enclosed, like we were in a snow globe someone kept turning in their hands. "You opened it," she said, nodding slightly toward the bill. Not a question, a statement. Her gaze hardened by a fraction, a flash of defensiveness. "You left it open," replied. "I just finished what you started." A flicker of something like panic crossed her features, fast and fleeting. the kind a person shows when they realize they've left a door unlocked. Okay, she breathed, setting her coat on the back of the chair with shaky precision. Okay, so you what? Checked the account. Yeah, said, and. There it was, the last breath of denial. The last little shred of hope that this might all be a misunderstanding, a billing error, a wrong number. Who's Ryan? Asked. Her shoulders slumped. It wasn't big, it was barely noticeable, but it was the smallest collapse, a tiny surrender. She didn't ask who, out of confusion. She knew. In that moment, in the dim light of our living room, watching her gaze drift somewhere over my shoulder, knew everything that mattered. Please, she whispered, closing her eyes. Please, can we not do this at midnight? I'm exhausted. Tomorrow we can talk, I promise, just. She moved toward me, hand reaching out, as if touching me could rewind the last hour. Stood up. The distance between us shrank to a couple of feet, but it felt like the length of the whole city. Tomorrow? Echoed, letting out a short, humorless laugh. It sounded strange in my own ears. You've had weeks, months. Tomorrow was always when we were going to talk, remember. Don't, she said, voice breaking a little. Don't make this. What? Asked quietly. Real. Her eyes opened, glossy under the warm lamplight. The rain painted faint patterns on her cheeks, mixing with something else now. Who is he? Asked again, softer this time. How long? She shifted her weight, fingers tangling together. A colleague, she said. The word fell flat between us. Wait. Don't say you're just friends, interrupted, shoulders sagging. Please don't insult both of us. She exhaled sharply. A tiny, bitter smile tugged at her mouth. No, she said. No, we're not just friends. There it was. The knife sliding out from behind the curtain. How long? Repeated, a beat of silence. About 6 months, she answered, staring at the floor. 6 months. The number echoed in my mind, attaching itself to memories like brittle little tags. 6 months ago, we redecorated the bedroom. 6 months ago, she started going to team drinks more. 6 months ago, she stopped reaching for my hand under the covers. 6 months, murmured, almost to myself. Right. That's half a year. I didn't mean, she started, then stopped herself, biting down on the sentence. You didn't mean what? Asked. To hurt me, to lie, to turn our whole life into a side project between texts with him. Her face crumpled for a second, then smoothed out, as if she was fighting the urge to fall apart. It wasn't like that, she insisted, shaking her head. It started after things got bad. You've been distant too, you've. A sharp, painful laugh escaped me. If I was distant, said, it's because I thought you were just tired. Overworked, I didn't know I was competing with someone else. The hum of the fridge, the low hiss of rain, the faint whoosh of a passing car outside, those sounds all seemed louder than our voices, as if the apartment itself was trying to drown this out. Did you sleep with him? Asked suddenly, the question cutting through the air like a blade. She froze. My heart pounded so loudly could hear it in my ears. I need you to say it, continued, voice tight, out loud. She looked at me then. Really looked, and in her eyes saw a mix of fear, shame, and something more tangled, something like relief. Yes, she whispered, just one syllable, but it ripped through the quiet like thunder. For a second, everything inside went numb. The room felt distant, like watching a scene through thick glass. The lamp, the couch, her coat on the chair. It all seemed strangely unimportant, like props in a play that had lost its script. How many times? The question slipped out before could stop it. Does that matter? She shot back, a hint of anger now. Will there be a number where you say, oh, okay, that's not so bad? Every time you lied to my face matters, said, anger finally sparking through the fog. Every time you said, I love you, and then texted him instead of talking to me matters. Her eyes shone with tears. We were broken long before him, she said quietly. You know that. Maybe, answered. But at least had the decency to be broken with you, not behind you. The words hung there heavy. She flinched like they'd landed physically. The clock on the wall ticked. The rain slowed to a gentle patter. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, then faded. What do you want me to say? She whispered. That I'm a horrible person, that I don't deserve you, that I threw away the best thing in my life for something that doesn't even feel real anymore. The question lodged itself in my chest. Does he know, asked, about me, that you're married? She hesitated. Yes, she said finally, from the beginning. The air left my lungs in a slow, long exhale. Of course he knew, they always know. So he's what? Asked. Just sitting somewhere right now, waiting for an update, for you to tell him whether your late meeting went well. Her jaw tightened. This isn't fair, she said. You're twisting. I'm twisting. The laugh that came out of me this time was sharper. You had an entire relationship behind my back. You gave someone else the time, the words, the pieces of you that I thought were still mine. She wiped at her cheek, annoyed at the tears. Nothing about this was simple, she said. I didn't wake up one day and decide to cheat on you. You weren't here anymore, not really. We stopped talking. We stopped. We stopped, repeated softly, but you left. Those 4 words hung there like a verdict. Her shoulders sagged. The fight seemed to drain out of her a little. She moved to the empty chair and sat slowly, like her bones had suddenly grown heavy. The chair didn't look empty anymore. It looked occupied by someone didn't recognize. I'm not going to stand here and pretend I'm innocent, she said, voice low. I screwed up, I know that. Every time I looked at you and lied, it felt like I was splitting in half. But Ryan, he was easy. He listened. He didn't know all my worst parts yet. It felt like a reset button. The reset button has a name, replied, and a phone number, and a timestamp at 10:03 p.m. She winced. The human mind is strange. Even in the middle of heartbreak, it clings to small, irrelevant details. The way her foot tapped nervously against the leg of the chair, the faint smudge of mascara under her left eye. The way her wedding ring caught the lamplight when she twisted her hands together. You still wear it, murmured, staring at her ring. Why? She looked down at it. I don't know, she said, voice barely audible. Maybe because some part of me hasn't caught up yet, or because I wanted to believe I could fix this before you ever found out. But you didn't stop, said quietly. You just added more to hide. She nodded slowly, tears spilling over now. The room felt suffocating, full of words and memories and broken promises. The walls, once covered in photos of trips and silly moments, now felt like they were closing in. Where were you tonight? Asked one last time. Really? She hesitated, then said, at his place. So simple, 3 words, at his place. They landed with the weight of a confession more complete than any long explanation could have been. Saw flashes in my mind, them together on someone else's couch, laughing at some show, sharing a plate of food, her hair down, her head on his shoulder. All the domestic little intimacies that used to be ours, transplanted into another living room. What do you want to do? She asked eventually, blinking through tears. It almost sounded like she was asking about dinner plans. About us, I mean. The word us felt strange in my ears now. Looked at her. At the rain streaking down the window behind her like tears on glass. At the empty space on the couch where she usually sat. At the laptop, still warm on my knees, an entire parallel life hidden inside it. I don't know, said honestly. All know is can't unknow any of this. She nodded slowly, her shoulders shook once, twice. I'll sleep in the other room, she murmured. You can have the bed. She stood, moving past me. For a second, as she brushed by, the familiar smell of her shampoo and perfume washed over me. It hit like a memory from another lifetime. Her hand brushed the back of my arm lightly, unintentionally, and every nerve lit up in pain at the familiarity of her touch. She disappeared down the hallway. The bedroom door clicked softly. Then nothing, just the rain, just the fridge, just the faint tick-tock of the clock on the wall, counting out a version of our lives that no longer existed. That night lay on the couch with the lamp off, the city light seeping in through the blinds, striping everything in pale gray. The cushions felt lumpy. The throw blanket smelled faintly of her, stared at the cracks in the ceiling until they blurred. Every time closed my eyes, saw her sitting in that chair, shoulders hunched, finger twisting her ring. Heard her saying yes in that small voice like a match striking in the dark. Somewhere around 3 a.m., reached for my phone. The unknown number sat there, still copied, still waiting. Ryan Calloway, the other man, the reset button, the stranger who knew the inside of her days in ways hadn't for months. Thumb hovered over the call icon. For a moment considered deleting it, letting him stay faceless, letting the story end here, in the quiet of our apartment, but then thought of that 10:03 p.m. call. Thought of 6 months' worth of messages, of nights at the office, of mornings where she turned away from my kiss, pressed call. The ringing seemed too loud in the stillness. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring, a groggy male voice answered, thick with sleep. Hello. Swallowed hard. Is this Ryan? Asked, voice sounding strangely calm. There was a pause. Yeah, he said slowly. Who's this? The lamp light on the table was off now, but the city glow painted the room in faint silver. The empty hallway yawned toward the closed bedroom door. This is Emma's husband, said. Silence. And in that long, quiet stretch, as the rain whispered against the glass and the city breathed in the distance, everything that had just shattered between us hung in the air, waiting to see what would break next. The silence on the line stretched so long it started to warp. For a moment thought the call had dropped, pulled the phone back, checked the screen, still connected, timer ticking upward, 4 seconds, 5, 6, put it back to my ear. Ryan prompted, a quick inhale on his end, a rustle like sheets being pushed away. Yeah, he said, more awake now. Yeah, I know who you are. Of course he did. Okay, replied, leaning back into the couch. The cushions sighed under my weight. At least we're not starting with lies. He let out a breath that might have been a short, nervous laugh, or maybe just disbelief. Look, man, he started, if you're calling to yell at me, or threaten me, or… No, interrupted, surprising both of us. Not yet, anyway. The truth was, the anger felt too big and too vague to aim just at him, or just at her, or even just at myself. It hung above everything like a cloud, waiting. I just paused, searching for the right words in the dim, quiet living room. I needed to know if there was anything left in this whole mess that wasn't a lie. On the other end, heard a lamp click. The subtle flaw in people, when they're about to tell the truth, they instinctively seek more light. What do you want to know? He asked, voice low. How did it start? Asked, you and her. Silence, then a rustle. Imagined him sitting up, running a hand through his hair, trying to assemble a version of the story that didn't make him sound like the villain. It was work, he said finally. We were on the same project. Late nights, deadlines. You know how it goes. She talked about you a lot, actually. At first it was normal, married life stuff. Then it was less happy. The words stung, even though they weren't unexpected. She made it sound like you guys were already done, he continued. Like you were just roommates who didn't have the guts to admit it. That made it easier, I'm guessing, said, not a question. Doesn't excuse anything, he replied quickly. I knew she was married. That's on me too. I'm not pretending I'm innocent, but I did care about her. The weird thing was, believed him, felt something heavy settle inside, not rage. Not even jealousy, just exhaustion. Did she tell you she loved you? Asked. There was a long pause. Yes, he said quietly, she did. The ceiling above me was washed in faint gray from the city outside. The cracks looked like veins. And did you believe her? Pressed. He took a long breath. I think, he said slowly, she was trying to believe it herself. That answer hurt in a different way, because knew exactly what it felt like to try to grow love in the wrong soil. I'm not calling to compare who she loved more, said after a moment. That's a game nobody wins. So why are you calling? He asked, not unkindly. The truth formed in my chest like fog, shapeless and cold. I guess, said, I wanted to know if this was just some fling to you, something casual, something you'll forget in a month. He was quiet for a few beats. No, he said eventually, it wasn't casual. At least not for me. The words twisted in my gut. So what's your plan? Asked, voice a little sharper. Wait for her to leave me and then play house. Move her toothbrush into your bathroom. Congratulate yourselves on finally being honest. Hey, he said, a flicker of defensiveness. You think this isn't tearing me up too? You think knowing you exist didn't make me question everything every time she was here? Did it stop you? Asked. No, he admitted, but it wasn't simple. She's not this evil person you're painting in your head right now. She's messy, hurt, confused. And yeah, she did something awful. So did I, but she's not. My wife finished quietly. He didn't answer. The living room felt colder suddenly. Pulled the blanket around me, even though it wasn't really cold. It just felt like something to hold on to. Did she tell you she was going to leave me? Asked. Yes, he said softly. She did. She said she needed time. How much time? Asked, almost to myself. He didn't respond. We sat there in a strange, unwanted intimacy, two men connected by nothing but the same woman's lies and the same woman's laughter. Listen, he said finally, voice gentler. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, ever, but I didn't go into this trying to destroy your life. I was just selfish and stupid and lonely. And she made me feel sin. The words hit like a mirror being held up. Selfish, stupid, lonely, wanting to feel seen. Recognized those things, not just in them, in myself. Ended the call without saying goodbye. The silence that followed was somehow even louder. Slept in broken pieces that night, 20 minutes here, an hour there. Each time eyes snapped open, the same scene replayed in my mind. Her in the doorway, her smile fading. The word yes hanging in the air. Morning came slowly. The rain had cleared by dawn, leaving the city washed in pale light. The apartment smelled of stale coffee and old air. Sat up on the couch, body stiff, neck aching. The bedroom door was still closed. For a moment, considered pretending this was all a bad dream. To get up, make coffee, fry some eggs, and wait for her to come out, stretching and yawning and complaining about Mondays. But the phone on the coffee table, the memory of last night's call, and the gritty, hollow feeling in my chest made that impossible. Stood up, legs unsteady, and walked to the kitchen. Filled the kettle, watching the water level rise. The sound of it hitting the metal was too loud in the quiet. The kettle began to whistle softly just as the bedroom door opened. She stepped out in a faded t-shirt and shorts, barefaced, hair messy, the version of her that loved. The version that had danced with me in this kitchen at midnight once when neither of us could sleep. Her eyes were red-rimmed, tired. She looked at me for a long moment, then at the kettle, then back. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked. "A little," said you. She shrugged. It struck how strange it was that after everything we could still do this small talk, the muscle memory of a marriage outliving its heartbeat. "I called him," said, turning off the kettle. She flinched. "What did he say?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "That he cared about you," replied. "That you told him we were basically over. That he wasn't innocent, but it wasn't simple." She leaned against the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. "It wasn't," she said. "Simple, I mean. Cheating rarely is," answered, "but it's always clear." She stared at the floor. "Do you love him?" asked. The question hung in the air like a held breath. She considered it, took her time. That hurt too, that she had to think about it. "I don't know," she said finally. "I thought I did, or that I could. But last night when you found out, when saw your face, I realized I don't even know what love means anymore. Not in a way that doesn't hurt someone." The sunlight coming through the kitchen window was soft, early, almost kind. It fell on her face, highlighting the dark circles under her eyes, the fine lines at the corners. "Do you still love me?" she asked suddenly, looking up. The question knocked the air out of me. Did love her? Thought of our first apartment, smaller than this one, with peeling paint and loud neighbors. Thought of long walks in the city, hands intertwined. Thought of the way she used to tuck her head under my chin when she was tired. Thought of the way she laughed, really laughed, when forgot to be self-conscious. Thought of last night, the spreadsheet of calls, the late meetings, the lies. "My love and my pain are the same shape now," said finally. "So yeah, but it doesn't feel like something good anymore." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. I wish could go back and fix this." "You could have stopped," said gently. "Any time in the last 6 months, you could have chosen to be honest. To hurt me once instead of 100 times, in 100 small ways." She nodded, tears spilling over. "I was a coward," she said. "I kept thinking I could manage it, that I could keep both lives going until something made the choice for me. And now it did." The kettle sat forgotten on the stove. The faint smell of gas lingered in the air, reminding me to turn the knob off. The click sounded final. "What happens now?" she asked. "I don't know," answered again. That was the hardest part, the not knowing. I just know can't be your backup plan, or your safety net, or the person you come home to when you're done trying out other lives. She winced like each word hit a nerve. "I'm not asking you to be," she said quietly. "If you want me to go, I'll go. Today, now just say it." The apartment seemed to lean in, listening. The empty chair in the living room, the couch where I had slept. The photos on the wall, us in better times, frozen in frames that didn't match the room anymore. "No," said after a long moment. "Don't just run." She looked confused. "Stay," continued. "For a week on the couch. I'll take the bedroom. We'll figure out logistics. Money, the lease. We owe ourselves at least that much, to not treat the end like it's nothing." She nodded slowly. "Okay," she said, "if that's what you want." "It's not what want," admitted. "But it feels human." Her mouth trembled at that. The next few days slipped into a strange, painful rhythm. We moved through the apartment like ghosts, orbiting each other without touching. Shared space but not a life. There were no more late meetings, no more secret calls, at least none that knew about. In the mornings, made coffee for both of us without asking. She still took it with one sugar, a splash of milk. She still curled her hands around the mug like it was the only warm thing in the room. In the evenings, she sat on the couch with her knees pulled up, scrolling through her phone, tried not to wonder who she was messaging now. Whether she was saying goodbye, or just pausing, the city outside kept moving, work emails still came, the world did not pause to accommodate our slow-motion collapse. One night, about 4 days after the discovery, she wasn't on the couch when came out of the bedroom. Found her on the balcony instead, wrapped in a thin sweater, staring out at the city lights. The air was cool, the sound of traffic a distant sigh. Joined her, standing a couple of feet away. "You always loved this view," she said, not looking at me. "You used to say the lights made you feel less alone." "They still do," said. "Somehow." We watched a plane blink its way through the sky. "I talked to him," she said after a while. "Ryan guessed," she nodded, and prompted. "I told him it was over," she said, "for real this time. Not the I just need time version, the actual end." "How did he take it?" asked. "Quietly," she said. "He just said, 'I figured,' and then wished me a good life." The words seemed to catch in her throat. "Are you hoping I'll say the same?" asked. She turned her head, searched my face. "I'm hoping," she said softly, "that one day you'll have one, a good life with or without me in it." The city wind tugged at her hair. There was something painfully honest in her expression. We're not there yet, said. The wishing each other well phase. Right now, I'm still stuck in the how could you phase, and the what did do wrong phase. You didn't do anything wrong, she said firmly. It wasn't about you being enough or not enough. I know that sounds cheap after everything, but it's the truth. Then what was it about? Asked. Because from this side, it just looks like you set a match to everything we built. She looked down at her hands on the railing. I got scared, she said, of how ordinary everything felt, of the idea that this work, dishes, laundry, Netflix was just going to repeat forever. And instead of talking to you about it, instead of saying I'm scared, I went looking for something that made me feel new. And alive and chosen. You were already chosen, said quietly, every day, even on the boring ones. Her shoulders shook once. I know, she whispered. I realized that too late. We stood there side by side, not touching, watching the city breathe. Eventually, she said, I'll start looking for a place tomorrow, something close enough that I can still help with whatever needs sorting, the lease, the furniture. Keep the couch, said, surprising myself. It smells like you. Don't think could sleep on it without feeling like choking. She gave a short, watery laugh. And the bed, she asked. Maybe a new one, answered. This one's seen too many lives. She nodded. That night, for the first time since everything broke, she knocked on the bedroom door before bed. Can we talk? She asked, standing in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. After a moment, stepped aside, motioned her in. She sat at the edge of the bed, hands folded in her lap. The space between us felt bigger than it was. She started, then stopped, took a breath. I need you to know something. Waited. When this started with Ryan, she said slowly, I kept waiting for you to become the villain in my head, so it would be easier. I tried to stack up all your flaws, all our fights, all the ways you'd failed me, big or small, and it never added up to enough. Not enough to justify what I was doing. She looked at me, eyes shining. You don't deserve what happened, she said. There's no version of this where you're the bad guy. I am, and maybe he is, and maybe life is. But not you. The words landed somewhere deep. Does it change anything? Asked. No, she said quietly. But maybe one day it'll help you trust yourself again, your version of events, your memory of us. It wasn't all a lie. For a moment we just sat there. Thank you, said finally. It surprised how much those words cost and how much they gave. She stood. Good night, she whispered. Good night, replied. After she left, stared at the ceiling again, tracing the cracks. This was what the end looked like, it seemed. Not a big explosion, not shattered plates and screaming neighbors and police at the door. Just two people sitting on the edge of a bed they'd bought together, admitting that somewhere along the way, they'd both lost sight of what they were holding. Some days later, on a quiet Sunday morning, she left. The apartment was half empty. Her clothes gone from the closet, her books missing from the shelf, the mug with the chipped handle taken from the rack. Are you sure you don't want it? She'd asked, holding it up. No, had said. It's yours. Now at the door she stood with one suitcase and a small box. This isn't how thought we'd end, she said, voice unsteady. How did you think we'd end? Asked. Old, she said, annoyed with each other. Arguing about the thermostat and who forgot to defrost the chicken. Not this. Me neither, said. For a long moment we just looked at each other. No screaming, no last-minute declarations, just tired eyes and shared history. I'll sign whatever papers you need, she said, when you're ready. Okay, replied, and if you ever need anything, help with something, a form, a memory, she trailed off, realizing how absurd it sounded. You know how to reach me. I do, said. That's kind of the problem. She gave a sad, crooked smile. I hope one day, she said, the good memories outnumber this one again. Then she leaned forward, hesitated, and pressed a light kiss to my cheek. It was the barest brush of lips, almost not there. Goodbye, she whispered. Goodbye, Emma said. The door closed behind her with a soft click. The sound echoed through the empty apartment. And just like that, there was no more we in these rooms, just me, and the echo of steps fading down the hallway. For a moment, stood in the silence, listening to the distant hum of traffic, the faint drip of a tap, the sound of my own breathing. Then walked back into the living room. Her chair sat empty again. Only this time, it wasn't waiting for her. It was waiting for whatever came next. The first morning after she left, woke up to sunlight instead of rain. It slipped through the blinds in thin bands, dust motes drifting lazily in the air like they had nowhere to be. The city hum outside was softer at this hour, just a low, patient murmur. For a few seconds between sleep and waking, reached out a hand to the other side of the bed. It met cold sheets. The emptiness was both familiar and new. She'd been emotionally gone for months, physically gone only a day. The body takes time to update, to match the heart's version of reality. Lay there on my back, watching the shapes of light crawl slowly across the ceiling. No crying Jag, no rage, just a tired, hollow sort of quiet. Eventually swung my legs over the side of the bed and sat up. The room felt bigger without her things. Her side of the closet was a blank stretch of wood now. A stripe of bare wall remained where one of her framed prints had hung. It looked like a missing puzzle piece. In the kitchen, made coffee for one. The mug felt heavier without a second one in my other hand. Used to set them down side by side on the counter, hers always just slightly closer to the window. Little habits you don't notice until they're gone. Now, placed mine in the middle of the table out of habit, then moved it. The empty chair across from me seemed too loud. Sat there listening to the kettle tick as it cooled, letting the quiet soak in. There's a strange kind of peace that comes after the worst has already happened. No more wondering, no more bracing for impact, just wreckage. And the slow work of deciding what to do with it. After breakfast, opened the windows. Cool air washed in, carrying the smell of wet pavement and distant coffee shops. The city sounded awake now, cars, voices, a dog barking somewhere down the block. Walked through the apartment, room by room, like it was a museum of our life. The living room, blank spaces where her photos had been, faint squares of lighter paint marking their ghosts. The couch still sagging in the middle, a remnant of too many movie nights, arguments, apologies. The bathroom, her side of the sink empty. No more line of skincare bottles, just my toothbrush leaning at a slight angle in a cup. The second bedroom, once her creative space, then a storage room, now a strange, echoing box with a few unopened boxes and a desk. Her perfume still lingered faintly in the hallway, as if the air hadn't finished letting go yet. Neither had I. People like to talk about closure like it's a door you can shut. One solid, satisfying click and you're done. But standing there in that half-empty apartment, it became very clear that closure wasn't a moment. It was a process. Later that day, found a notebook tucked into the back of a drawer. It was hers. Recognized the cover, a soft, worn brown with a faded gold pattern. She used to scribble in it sometimes, late at night, sitting cross-legged on the bed. Sat down on the edge of the couch and opened it. Most of it was work notes, lists, reminders, doodles in the margins, but a few pages were different. Found a date 6 months back, the ink a little smudged. I don't recognize myself lately, she'd written. I keep looking at him and feeling this ache. He's right there, he's kind, he tries, and I'm somewhere else entirely. What kind of person does that make me? Turn the page. I told myself I'd stop. That last time was the last time, but then work ran late again, and I found myself texting Ryan before I even knew what I was doing. I hate that I'm capable of this. I hate that some part of me doesn't want to let either of them go. Another page, he doesn't know, my husband. He still looks at me like I'm something good. If he finds out, that look will be gone forever. I don't know why that scares me more than losing him entirely. Closed the notebook gently. The words didn't excuse anything. They did, however, soften something sharp inside. She hadn't cheated because loved me less. Or because he was better. Or because I had failed some secret test. She had cheated because she was broken in ways neither of us had known how to name. Set the notebook aside. Didn't feel right to read further. Some lines, even after everything, still felt private. Over the next weeks, life reshaped itself in small ways. Work filled the days. Friends texted and called more. The ones who knew said the same phrases in different words. You didn't deserve this. Time will help. You'll be okay. Didn't argue with them, didn't fully believe them either. Nights were the hardest. The apartment felt bigger then, the shadows stretching longer. Tried rearranging the furniture one weekend, just to make the rooms look less like the ones we'd shared. Moved the couch under the window. Pushed her old chair to the opposite corner. Took down the last of the photos where we were both smiling. Left one on the shelf, us on that trip 3 years ago, sun in our faces mid-laugh. Kept it not to torture myself. Kept it as proof that something real had existed here once. One especially quiet evening, as the sky turned from blue to gray to black, sat at the kitchen table with a blank piece of paper. For a long time, just stared at it. Then started writing. It wasn't a letter to her, not really. She'd moved into a small place across town by then. We'd exchanged a few messages about bills, the lease, logistics, polite, careful. This was a letter to the version of myself that had walked into this apartment yesterday, last month, last year, trusting, unknowing. Hey, wrote, you're going to be okay. The words looked foreign on the page. You're going to lose more than you thought you could bear, continued. You're going to learn that love isn't a guarantee, that being good isn't a shield, that people can hurt you badly and still not be monsters, just flawed, lost. Afraid. Paused, listening to the fridge hum, the faint whoosh of a car outside. You'll want to make this all your fault, wrote. You'll replay every fight, every moment you chose work over a walk, every night you fell asleep too fast, every missed signal. You'll try to find the magic thing you could have done differently to keep her. You won't find it. Swallowed, you weren't perfect, neither was she, but her choice to cross that line was hers alone. Don't carry what isn't yours. The pen felt heavy in my hand. You will forgive her one day, wrote, surprise at the certainty of it. Not because she deserves it, but because you deserve peace. You will let go of this version of your life. You will build another. It won't look like this one. That's okay. Stopped there, folded the paper in half, and tucked it into the notebook with her unfinished lists and scattered thoughts. It felt like placing a seed into the ground. Not ready to grow yet, but there, spring came. The city shifted from gray to tentative green. Trees along the sidewalk sprouted leaves. The air felt softer. Mornings got brighter. One Saturday woke up earlier than usual. Sunlight poured through the window, warmer now. The apartment was quiet but not oppressive, just still. Made coffee. Stood by the window, watching people walk their dogs, kids on scooters, a couple arguing playfully at the crosswalk. My reflection stared back at me in the glass, older, a little thinner, eyes clearer than they'd been months ago. Picked up my phone, thumb hovering over her name in my contacts. We hadn't spoken in a few weeks. No urgent paperwork. No reason to, but there was one thing left could do. Not for her, for me, typed slowly. Hope you're doing okay. Just wanted you to know, I'm working on letting go of the anger. I'm not there yet, but trying. I hope you find whatever peace you were looking for, really. Read it twice, 3 times. It wasn't an invitation back, or a declaration, or a plea. It was a line drawn gently under a chapter. Press send. The message ticked away into the ether. For a while there was no reply. Made breakfast, washed dishes, opened the windows wider. 20 minutes later my phone buzzed. Her reply was short. Thank you, I'm trying too. I'm so sorry for everything. I hope one day when you think of us, it doesn't hurt so much. You deserved better. I'm glad you're letting yourself have it now. No, I miss you. No, can we talk? Just acknowledgement. And a kind of goodbye that felt truer than the one at the door. Put the phone down, took a deep breath. The apartment felt different suddenly. Not because she was gone, because the version of her that had been living rent-free in my head, accuser, betrayer, ghost, was finally starting to pack up too. Later that afternoon, went for a walk. The city was bright. People existed in their own small universes, laughing, hurrying, scrolling. No one knew that a marriage had ended quietly in a small apartment a few blocks away. Or that a man was learning how to drink coffee with 1 mug instead of 2, stopped at a park bench and sat for a while. Kids chased each other around. A dog rolled in the grass with pure, unself-conscious joy. An older couple shared a sandwich, each taking small, careful bites. Watched them and felt a twinge not of jealousy exactly, but of something like longing, hope's quieter cousin. Realized then that despite everything, some part of me still believed in love, not the invincible kind, not the fairy tale, the flawed, daily kind, the kind that knows people are capable of hurting each other and chooses to try anyway. With eyes open this time, on the walk home the streets looked different, same buildings, same cracks in the pavement, but it all felt a little more in focus. The apartment door closed behind me with the same soft click. But it no longer sounded like an ending, just a sound. In the living room, her chair sat where had moved it weeks ago, by the window now. The light fell on it in a way that made it look almost inviting. For the first time, it didn't feel like her chair. It felt like a chair, sat down in it. The cushion gave under my weight, adjusting, accepting. Outside, the city moved. Inside, the morning light filled the room, touching every empty space, every bare patch on the wall, every corner where something used to be. It didn't try to hide any of it, and somehow that made it easier to breathe. Sat there for a long time, listening to the distant sound of traffic, the occasional honk, the murmur of life continuing. My chest still ached. But the pain had edges now, and between those edges there was space. Enough space maybe for something new to grow one day. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. For now, it was enough to sit in the quiet, in a chair that wasn't hers anymore, in a home that was learning how to be mine again, and feel the light on my face. And in that soft, ordinary morning, with coffee gone cold on the table and the city humming below, realized something simple and strange. Letting go wasn't a dramatic gesture. It was this, breath by breath, day by day. Choosing over and over to turn toward the light, even when the past still whispered from the shadows, even when the hurt still echoed in the empty rooms, especially then, because in the end, that was the only surprise wanted to give her, not revenge. Not bitterness, just this quiet, stubborn truth. She could break my heart, but she couldn't keep it.